5 years ago. The end of this July will be 5 years. I was I think I was officially the 15th employee hired on. Started out in the warehouse right out of high school, did that for about a year. And then I moved to supply chain where I did purchasing and inventory for about a year and a half. Then I moved over to compliance where I caught the eBay sellers and the fraudsters, and I did that for about a year. And then I got the privilege of becoming a jewel liaison where I got to meet and work with all of our jewel ambassadors, and did that for a little over a year. And then about 4 months ago, I was promoted to one of the field development coaches where I got to stay in the same region and continue working with everybody. And just recently we extended the program to our senior Ruby ambassadors as well. So I got the privilege of getting to work with all of them, and that's how I met Liza. So yeah, I've kind of had that unique experience of kind of getting to see all of corporate and kind of how we've grown over 5 years, and some of the awesome times and also some of the growing pains as well. And I've gotten to work with close to, 200 between senior rubies and jewels now, close to 200 different ambassadors and how they've been able to build their business. So if you're familiar with color personality, I've worked with blues, reds, greens, yellows. I've worked with introverts. I've worked with extroverts. I've worked with people that lead with the business. I work with people that lead with the product. So I've kind of seen it all. And my job is to kind of pick their brains and be able to share different information with everybody else so that they can grow their teams. And I've also got access to a lot of the metrics and statistics that we see across the board at Plexus that aren't necessarily specific to any one team, but the entire field. So I want to just kind of share a couple of those things with you right now, some of the main things that we're seeing at corporate that you guys can start doing right now to take advantage of all your hard work and your team's hard work. So the number one thing, if you take anything away from this call tonight that you can start doing right away, or the number one thing to take away from this would be convenience orders. What we're seeing right now across the board, at least especially with the people that I coach with, is about 50% of new people that are joining are coming on with a convenience order, and about 50% are joining without a convenience order. Now, of the people that don't have a convenience order, about 80% of the time, that's the only order they ever place. We look, we'll go back oftentimes in the reports, and we'll look and see people that joined 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and we'll just kind of see what their activity has been like. And when they're joining without a convenience order, a lot of times they just aren't ordering again. And the exact opposite is true, though, for people that sign up with a convenience order. About 80% of the time what we're seeing is that they order again that next month. And every single metric here in Plexus tells us if you give the product 60 days, you're going to feel better, and the chances of you becoming a lifelong user of the product skyrockets, which is why we've got a 60-day money-back guarantee and not a 30-day money-back guarantee, right? In theory, a business would make more money by only giving you 30 days to try the product and return it. But we know that the results that you experience between day 31 and day 60 are far greater than the results that you experience between day 1 and day 30. So that's why that's there. And so why is it that this magical convenience order is all of a sudden going to help change your business? It's going to help the reason for that is it's going to help keep people consistent. The other thing that we're seeing right now is quite a few people, they're just ordering about every 6 weeks. Those people that maybe they don't have that convenience order on, that still get their orders, I would bet you that they're probably not someone that is placing their order every single month. They're hitting their 100 PV every single month. So that really just kind of indicates, okay, well, if you're not ordering every 4 weeks, but you're also not ordering every 8 weeks, that kind of just tells us that you're probably not staying consistent with taking the products. So you're probably taking the products maybe 5 out of 7 days of the week. And so you're just getting a little bit left over. Obviously, that's still, you're still going to experience good results from the products, but a good portion of what you're spending on the products is essentially being flushed down the drain by not staying consistent. I won't get too much into dysbiosis or anything like that, but if you guys are familiar with Cindy Latham's presentation at convention, dysbiosis is a condition when you've got more bad gut bacteria than good gut bacteria, and you can get into that state in less than 24 hours just based on your lifestyle or different things that are going on. And so that's why it's super important. And because, if a new person is joining with a convenience order, that they're committing to 60 days on the product. And that's really what we want to see. And I would challenge everyone on this call that if you've got anybody that joins your team this month and they don't order next month, don't consider that attrition. I would honestly, and this might sound a little harsh, but to me, that's just lack of follow-up or lack of giving realistic expectations up front when they're first joining. The last thing that I want to see is someone that has tried the products for only 30 days and that's it. Because oftentimes we know in the first 30 days, you can actually feel a lot worse than you were before taking it, just depending on what's going on in your body and what's going on in your system. And so if you were to tell me to take these products and, I'm going to feel great. And 30 days in, I don't feel very good because you didn't give me the best, the realistic expectation of what to expect. I'm going to block you on every social media platform, ask for a refund, and that's it. And we really hate to see that because that's the exact opposite of the network marketing business model. We want people going out there and sharing the amazing experience they've had with the products, not going out and saying, oh, I've tried Plexus and it didn't work for me, when really they weren't set up for success to begin with. Over time, we're still a relatively new company, but over time that will greatly impact your ability to enroll new people, and it will, it'll spread. So we want to counterbalance that. So that's the number one thing, convenience orders. If there's nothing else you take away from this call tonight, that's the number one thing. Go find me any business that had more than 75% of new people join in any given month with a convenience order on that went backwards in points, because you will not be able to find it. We all the 7 other coaches on this team, this is a very well-known metric. If you find a business where 3/4 or 80% of the new people coming in have convenience orders on, they're going to see growth again the next month. It's just a given. So that's probably the number one issue we're seeing across the board. The number 2 issue is, let me just see, for those of you that have got your camera on, how many of you have got ambassadors on your team that order every single month, but they just don't hit their 100 PV? Yep, looks like almost every single hand here. So that's another common issue across the board. I promise you that's an issue everyone's facing. Diamonds, every rank. So let's talk about some different ways in which you can get them above that. So one great way is always just reminding them of that 60-day money-back guarantee. Late last year, we extended the 60-day money-back guarantee for ambassadors as well. So this is a great time to let them know if there's any product that they've never tried before, or they've been on the fence about trying, that they can try that risk-free, because they've got 60 days to return it as well. The same goes with a brand new product, right? If it's Vital Biome or X Factor Plus, or even the new reformulated Slim, they've got 60 days to return that. So that's the first thing that you can do. But then really, there's really not a whole lot that you can do outside of that other than just really sell them on another product. So you can phone them up, ask them what their favorite products are, and then share with them what your favorite products are and some of your results. But really, that's about it. So it really leads us to having to ask the question, how did they get into that category to begin with? And so one is, either sometimes people just aren't signing people up in the right category, right? Maybe they're signing ambassadors up that are only purchasing Slim. So that's an education piece in which you'll probably need to talk to the people enrolling them about that. You're gaining nothing from that. But that's not the most common one. What's pretty common is, and I'll even use myself as an example. I can't believe I'm about to say this in front of Liza's whole team, but I only take 1 BioCleanse a day, right? So if I was on Triplex, right, so I only take 1 capsule. Now, I know what all you guys are thinking. Why doesn't he take more? Trust me, I've been working with our jewels for like a year and a half. They've recommended this. I promise I don't have a issue in that department, so we'll just leave it at that. But I've tried doing more, and it just doesn't work. But I love Triplex, right? But that means if I was a wholesale customer on your team, that I would only be hitting my 100 PV every 4th month if I was only ordering Triplex. I still love Triplex. You don't have to convince me of that, but I wouldn't be hitting my 100 PV. And even if I was taking 2 a day, I would still only be hitting it every other month, and you would never be able to really forecast as to when I'm going to hit my 100 PV. So the only way that you're going to get me up above that is if you can convince me of another product. And especially now with introducing Vital Biome and reformulating X Factor, I truthfully think that there are 6 products that everybody could and probably should be taking, just between Triplex and then Mega X, X Factor, and then Vital Biome. Cindy Latham put it really well for us. And this was something that I actually did not know. So our ProBio 5 is one of our best products, and especially before all these other reformulations, quite possibly our best. But it's actually more of like a digestive enzyme supplement as opposed to a probiotic. And if you look at the new Vital Biome, it's actually got 20 billion CFUs as opposed to 2 billion. So it's actually 10 times stronger as far as a probiotic than the ProBio 5. And so they're 2 different things. I think everyone will benefit from a digestive enzyme like ProBio 5, but I think everyone else can also be taking an omega like Mega X, a probiotic like Vital Biome, and a multivitamin like X Factor Plus. And all 4 of those products right there add up to 100 PV. And now we haven't even included Slim or BioCleanse yet. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're facing those people that are under 100 PV. And a couple other things that you can do to try to sell them on a product but also grow your business is ask them for some referrals. if they're a wholesale customer and they're not working the business, ask them how much they love the product. Let them know that you're a business owner and that you're trying to expand and grow your business, and let them know, hey, if you give me 5 referrals or 3 referrals or 10 referrals, whatever number you want to pick, that you'd be willing to give them half off or send them a free bottle of Vital Biome or X Factor Plus, right? One of the brand new products that they haven't tried before. Because if they take those consistently, I've got a pretty good feeling that they'll be reordering that moving forward. So that's a suggestion you can do there, and you'll still be able to get some referrals to add some new people to your business. And then, the third main issue that I think most businesses are facing right now would be just wholesale customers in general that aren't business builders. So just by a show of hands, how many of you have got someone that hits their 100 PV every month? They just don't work the business. They just aren't interested. Yep. Looks like everybody else, right? So one thing that I'll share with you really quick that hopefully will make you feel a little bit better about that is this big old binder here. These are the notes that I took on the very first call that I had with the senior rubies and jewels that I work with. Now, before we extended it to senior rubies, I did a little poll, and out of the 120 jewels that I had worked with, over 80% of them told me on our very first call that they joined for just wholesale pricing, and they had no interest of ever working the business. So, and now they're jewels, right? So that tells me that every single one of you have got a wholesale customer in your business. It's a business builder waiting to happen. We just got to figure out how to convert them. And that same thing, something happened to get those jewels off the fence. We just got to figure out how to get them off the fence. So a couple ways you can do that. Number one way, the comp plan. Now, I'm not saying to go at them and say and teach them all 11 different ways they get paid. There's a pretty good chance that's going to go right over their head, and there's a reason they probably didn't look into that in the first place. But one easy one is just talk to them about how our comp plan pays out 50%. That's one that most people don't even realize, but that's the way that the value of the pay point is determined, is we pay out 50% to the field. Now, they may not see all 50% because it's divvied up 11 ways, right? But again, it's a very generous comp plan in that regard. And also, Tarl said something to me like 2.5, 3 years ago that really just kind of stuck with me right when I was in compliance. And he said, our comp plan is structured in such a way that it produces 1 million thousandaires, not 1,000 millionaires. So there's a lot more residual income for those people in the middle ranks, right? Gold, senior gold, ruby, senior ruby. And, those at the top still make a really great income, but instead of making $5 million on average at the diamond level, they make 500,000, right? So that's another way that you can phrase that. But, another thing that you got to consider is not every single person has had a positive experience with network marketing or the business side of it. And, the first person that comes to mind for me when I start thinking about that is my own mom. And so not sure who here is familiar with Gold Canyon Candle, but that's another network marketing business. And so years ago, I was growing up, I was in probably like elementary school or middle school. My mom was the equivalent of a wholesale customer for Gold Canyon Candle. She loved buying those. She loved the smell. And so people would come over all the time and they'd compliment her on how great the house smelled, right? And so at some point she was like, hey, you know what? People are complimenting me on this. You know what? I'm gonna work this business. So she ended up ordering like $500 worth of inventory because that's what she had to do. She hosted a party and she ended up only selling like 3 candles and took like a $400 hit on working the business. Now we had candles for like a year and it smelled great for like the next year and a half. But that was her experience when it came to the business side of things. And now, again, she loved the product. So if she was an ambassador right now and someone were to present and loving the product and someone were to present the business opportunity, she'd probably be a little closed off to it right away. So you've got to remember to remind people, again, that comp plan was nowhere near as great as ours, but no inventory is required, no parties required. And I can't stress that enough. I know that that's one of those common things that everybody says, but really, I think you really have to pound that in the head of that wholesale customer. You've got this replicated website. The comp plan pays out really well. And even just break it down for them. You don't need to show them all 11 ways, but hey, if you get one person to enroll with a welcome pack, you're going to get $25, right? If you can just break it down like that and show them what happens with each enrollment and show them the power of 3, I truthfully think you can almost convert any wholesale customer into a business builder. It might take a little bit extra time. You might need to revisit that conversation multiple times, but I definitely believe that can happen. And another way that you can get them to do that is sometimes just seeing that earning potential or the earning power of the comp plan. One thing I'm really happy with, we just recently increased prices, which also increased PV. Actually, P96 dropped in PV, but everything else rose. And so there was a couple strategic reasons for that. I mean, a couple were we were losing money on certain things, but we also looked to see what would happen for some of these people that were right at the border of hitting 100 PV, hitting like 90, 97, 98. And a lot of them ended up over 100 PV and are commission qualified and contributing points now. So that was a great thing. But not just that, with the triplex before, what you got to remember is, yes, those people were commission qualified at 101 PV, but they weren't seeing any commissions. They were getting paid on 15 cents of that one PV, and we withhold the first $2.95 for the commission processing fee. So they weren't seeing anything. They had no idea. Now that it's a little bit more, and I should know this off the top of my head, but they come back with like, I think $3.50 or something like that. But again, if you can continue to show them some of the other great products, X Factor, Mega X, Vital Biome, and they increase their PV, they're going to get a little bit money back in their own orders. And sometimes that's all people need to see. That light bulb goes off in their head and they get intrigued. Well, what happens if I do get a customer under me? Or what happens if I do get a couple of ambassadors under me? What is the earning potential of this? So again, just increasing people's PV will also help show them the value of the comp plan. Sometimes people, they see this wholesale customer spending their 100 PV and they just don't think anything of it. But you can increase your retail override rewards. It helps increase the value of the pay point as well. So there's a number of reasons to do that. But those are probably the 3 top tips that most businesses are struggling with right now, that everybody can take advantage of. So now I'll just share, I've done a couple of 3-way coaching calls with some of our jewels, where sometimes we will bring one of the top performers of the month on a 3-way call. So sometimes I'll get on with a gold or a senior gold or a ruby or something like that. And oftentimes I get asked the question, so what is it that the jewels are doing, or what is it that those diamonds are doing that's making them so successful? Like what is the secret? And I really don't think there's any secret. There's really about 5 main things that I've tried to break it down to that I think everybody does. Now there's obviously so much detail that goes involved in this and those tiny little things that they do, but I just want to share these 5 things so that everybody can see if these 5 things happen well in your business, you will grow 100% of the time. So number 1 is pretty basic, right? It's enrollments. You got to increase enrollments. That's the first part of all this. So if you're struggling with that, a couple things you can do. 1, I would role play with your upline. Be familiar with some of those common curveballs that people will throw you. I think a lot of times people they feel confident, they know what they want to say and how they're going to pitch the business until someone throws them a curveball and they're like, oh, well, I can lose weight with diet and exercise, or it's a pyramid scheme or whatever. And then they fumble the response and they don't know how to answer it. And then they get discouraged from sharing the business or sharing the products a couple of other, in the future. So you can also read a couple of great books. Any advertising or marketing book would be great there, or any books on how to sell. A great one that I've read that I could recommend to everyone would be The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. He's a best-selling author. I promise you, I've read that one like 3 or 4 times in a row now. It will definitely be worth your time. It's pretty dry the first 2 chapters, so just stick with me there. But I promise by the end of the book, you won't hate me for it. So that's number 1, is just enrollments. Number 2 is retention. So it does no good to enroll these people if you're not going to continue to have them order moving forward. So that kind of goes back to that convenience order. And it's super important to get that set up, but also just setting them up with those realistic expectations again, right? Let them know, what they might experience in their first 60 days. Don't just tell them that they're going to feel amazing when they start taking triplex, because that's going to lead to poor retention, I promise. Number 3 is the follow-up. Making sure people are getting the best results with the products, making sure that they're liking the products, and making sure that you understand where some of their pain points or struggles are is crucial to this business. And I'll share another story just about myself as to why I think that's important. So again, I've worked here for close to 5 years. One of the great perks of working at corporate is that we get our products for free. And so last March, I was working with Diamond Ambassador Sarah Taylor, and we had been working together already for 3 months. And we were working on this really in-depth situation. It took us like 30 minutes. So we were on the phone, and towards the end of that conversation, she was like, hey, we've been working together for some time now. I'd really love to get to know you, do you take our products, Jake? Was one of the questions she asked me. And I was like, yeah, of course, Sarah. Like I get my products for free. I love our products. I take Slim. It makes me feel amazing. And I went down the list. I was like, I take, Triplex, Mega X, X Factor, Ease, P96, and went down. She was like, oh, that's awesome. So what's your regimen look like, and what's your favorite product? So I told her, oh, Slim's my favorite product. I feel great. And this is my regimen. I wake up each morning, I make breakfast, take my supplements, go to the gym, go to work. And she's like, oh, great. She's like, but can I ask you a question? Are you taking ProBio 5 and Mega X in the morning? And I was like, yeah, is there some reason I shouldn't be? And she was like, well, look, it's not a bad thing, but will you do me a favor? Will you just start taking it at night and just let me know what happens? Or before you go to bed, let me know what happens. So I was like, yeah, you're a Diamond Ambassador. I'll listen to you. So I started doing that. And about 10 days in, I noticed that I was getting the best sleep I'd ever had. And that's kind of my testimony, right? I don't really have much else of a testimony other than Slim making me feel great when I started drinking it. But I'd always struggled in high school with sleep. I was playing football, and I'd be in class just with my head kind of like this, dozing, like just like nodding off, right? And I'd be in football and I wouldn't be able to get the same performance. And I mean, I could fall asleep at night, but I really only stay asleep for about 5 hours and then I was up. Well, to this day, I sleep 8 hours a night and I sleep like a baby, to where if they fired me today, I'd be signed up tomorrow to make sure I can still get my ProBio 5 and my Mega X. And the reason that story is so important to me is because had I had to spend all the money for the products, if I wasn't getting them for free, there's a good chance I would have only been getting Slim, because I wasn't seeing the greatest results with the other products. I was taking the multivitamin, I was taking the Omega, and I knew how important those are to overall health. But as far as like instant results, like I wasn't seeing it. But as soon as just this tiny little tweak in my regimen got me the greatest results, to where, I mean, I can't shut up about them to this day. That's one reason why it's so easy for me to get on these calls. I feel like I'm a product of the product. And, just by finding out what my regimen looked like and by slightly altering it, I got way better results. And so don't underestimate what that follow-up can look like. And, one thing to keep in mind is that follow-up happened through a phone call, not through Facebook Messenger, not through text message, not through email, not through any of that. It was through a phone call, that back and forth conversation, because sometimes that's what it takes to really be able to figure out how the person's taking the products. How do they like it? You can hear it in their voice inflections, are they excited to be taking the product, or are they just telling you that? I'm not saying that you should always follow up with a phone call, because I promise you, if you called me like every other day or something like that, I'd get really annoyed. But I'm also saying incorporate that phone call into part of your follow-up process. I know it's the easy thing to do is to just send a Facebook message or a text message, but you'll get much more value out of that follow-up. And the truth is, I know that it's much easier, but I mean, if we were just imagine if tonight we were just, if I was just answering questions in like a Facebook chat, how many of you would have even shown up? I don't think you would have found any value in that. There's a ton of value in that face-to-face personal connection. That's one reason why I try to do all my coaching calls on Zoom, because it's the closest thing that we've got to that face-to-face interaction. So follow-up is number 3, and incorporate those phone calls in there too. Number 4 is duplication. So often, that's one of the huge mistakes we'll see people make when they kind of go to Senior Ruby, right? Early on in the business, you're kind of by yourself. You're a you're a brand new ambassador trying to go silver. You got to get 3 people. And a lot of times you really don't have that runner or that business builder with you until you've gotten about 30 people or so. So I kind of call it the in-between gold and senior gold rank, whatever you want to call that. But usually somewhere around like 150 points is really when you get that next business builder. So it's really easy to be focused on just your top 3 levels and how everyone's doing up there. But as you continue to grow and you become a senior gold or Ruby ambassador, your organization gets deeper. And as it continues to get deeper, it's easy for people to not pay attention to what's going on levels 5, 6, and 7, because there's not that many people down there yet, and they're not generating as many points for you. But I promise you, you will not be able to go much further than Emerald if you do not have duplication happening on level 5, 6, and 7. It's very, very common for some of our top Diamond ambassadors that are, in the top 20, top 30 to be getting close to 2,000 points from just level 6 and 7 alone. I mean, that's insane. There's a ton of people down there. So that deep level duplication is crucial. And that's another reason why that convenience order is so important. I truthfully believe that every single one of you would, if you enrolled someone today without a convenience order, would follow up next month to make sure that they order. I mean, you took time out of your evening to hop on this call. You're clearly dedicated. But remember that the same way that you bring somebody in is the same way that they're going to bring someone else into the business, which is the same way they're going to bring someone else in. And once you get a couple levels deep, I promise you that's not manageable at that point. So make sure that your training is getting down low in the organization. I'm not saying to all of a sudden start working with a bunch of level 5s and 6s, because again, these diamonds, they would not be able to work with 1,300, 1,400 people on level 6 and 7. It's not possible. But make sure your message is getting down to them. Make sure they're still allowed on the team page, or there's some way in which they're getting that material. So that's number 4 is duplication. And number 5 is developing other leaders. That's oftentimes another common mistake that we'll see where, I'll be working with, and I'm a red personality, so I'm not saying anything bad about reds, but a lot of times reds have got they'll handle it themselves. And so when their points start to go backwards or they start to plateau, they just get out and they enroll more people. And sometimes, especially if you're at the senior Ruby rank, I mean, you can enroll 5 or 6, up to even 10 people that month and still go backwards or break even just because your organization is so large at that point. And so, I'll be working with people that maybe are still trying to qualify for Hawaii 3 out of the 3 months. So they still need to hit it here in June and July. And I'll be asking, I'll be looking at them and I'll see, okay, they've enrolled like 7 or 8 people this month. So that's a great job. I can't get on them for that. They're doing all kinds of 3-way chats, team calls, IPA, all kinds of stuff there. So I'm like, well, they're leading their team too. Can't get on them there. But then when I ask them, okay, so who are the other leaders on your team and what things are they doing right now? That's when we get crickets. And the last thing that you ever want is and I'll just kind of use an example here. I'm going to pick someone at random. Renee, you're the first name that I saw pop up. So let's pretend that I'm a Jewel, or I'm an Emerald, Liza's a senior Ruby, and Renee is the person right under Liza. The last thing we want is for Renee to look right past Liza and look straight at me as the leader. We want her looking at that next person in line as the leader in that organization. Because I promise you too, if you start to grow too big, you're going to have hundreds of people coming to you with questions, feeling like they need you to contribute or be a part of this team call or be a part of this. And you'll never have that time freedom in which you've spoken so much about, right? One of the great perks, or one of the great things about getting to a high rank in this company, right, is the fact that you get that ability of having that time freedom. And it'll also stunt the growth of the team, and it'll stunt the growth of that leg. If that person feels like a leader and they feel empowered, they've got the confidence then to lead that team, and the duplication continues to happen down. So those are the 5 main things that I think every single business does that's successful. And, the details are a lot more intricate at that point, and that's where we get on these coaching calls and we really figure out what it is that they're doing, those tiny little details that maybe they don't even realize that they're doing. So yeah, those are the 5 main things. So now, I mean, we just want to open it up for maybe like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so of Q&A. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. So if you guys know how to type the question into the chat there, just so that I can read it and kind of think about my answer, and allows more to come through at once, I'll do my best to answer anything anyone's got.
Jake, I have a question.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I hear from my team, and I just want to hear how some of the jewels maybe handle this. I know how I handle it, but one of the objections that some people get frustrated with is the cost objection. What do you hear from the jewels on how they typically deal with that?
So the first is I would try to break that down to, let me back up just a little bit. I think you got to start by asking the right questions and try to figure out what their lifestyle looks like. Are they saying it's expensive, but they're going to Starbucks multiple times a week? Are they still drinking soda? Are they eating all kinds of junk, stuff like that, that's costing them a lot of money? If so, you can show them what happens when you don't have those sugar cravings, or you can even break it down to cost per day. I've seen that one done quite often, because if you break it down like that, you'll actually see that, hey, taking Triplex every single day is actually cheaper than your Starbucks, right? And you'll feel much better and have sustained energy. But another thing that I do, or that the Jewels do, that I also recommend, that I think is super important, is let them know that one reason why the products might be a little bit more expensive. First off, I think they're priced very, very well in terms of being competitive with the rest of the market. But 50% of our profits get paid back out to the field. So that should really intrigue someone then to even want to not only join and get the products, but work the business, because that's part of that cost is because 50% is paid back out to all of you guys. So that's an avenue that I would recommend taking there as well, but break it down cost per day too.
Okay, you guys, come on. We have Jake on here, and he wants to answer your questions. So I know somebody on this team has got to have some questions for him. So
remember, I work with all color personalities, so I can kind of give you some insight as to some of the challenges maybe they face, or anything like that, if you're, curious.
What do you recommend for when people are trying to build their team, but they want to keep that high PV, especially with leaders retreat coming? What do you suggest? At what point do you think people should be turning over some of those $100 or more PV customers into ambassadors? But yet they want to keep that PV higher.
Well, the first thing I would say is, make sure that, because this is a common mistake that people make, that where they'll upgrade them to an ambassador, not realizing that the PV changes from ambassador to customer. And so they actually are now below that 100 PV when they become an ambassador. So that's the first thing I'd make sure of, is that when they're taking enough products to still hit that 100 PV as the ambassador. But what I really say is, honestly, if someone's been taking if they've been taking the products for 60 to 90 days and they've been spending over 100 PV, that's really when I would have that conversation, because, and I understand the PV argument. But there's so many, and I'll get to this in a minute too, but that's another area where I think people are not taking full advantage of getting customers. But, I know that if I was a customer and after 3 months or so, if I was taking triplex and I found out that I only had to spend $34.95 to be able to get the wholesale pricing, excuse me, I got the hiccups today. If I only had to spend that $34.95 to get the wholesale pricing, I would realize that, wow, pretty quickly here in under 3 months, I would have made up the price difference there, or the cost there. And that would I would almost feel a little misled. So I would say, anytime they've been on over 100 PV for 9 months, I would really have that conversation with them and ask them if they want to flip. A couple of suggestions that I've heard right now, especially during contest time, is they're saying, if you will become an ambassador and you'll give me 5 referrals, right? I always talk about this referral program. Then I will pay your $34.95. And that works really well, because now they're like, oh, well, that's great. And you'll pay my $34.95. I'll get wholesale pricing. And also I'm going to get a welcome pack, which is cheaper than I'll ever get the products again. So it ends up being a deal for them. You're still going to get some leaders retreat credits for that. But then you've got 5 referrals from them. So now you can take those referrals and either maybe enroll them as ambassadors if they're interested in spending that 100 PV, or you can even enroll them as customers yourselves. Some people like to do that differently. Some people will take those customers and enroll them. Sometimes they will try to make them ambassadors, and if they're interested in becoming an ambassador, they might plug them under that person that gave them the referral. I'm not the biggest, I don't like stacking in Plexus, but in this situation, that's a referral that you're getting from the person. So I understand, and I'm okay with that. That makes sense to me. But that's the first thing I would be doing right there. And then as far as just customers go in general, I think a lot of people are missing out on what I like to call like the pipeline of becoming an ambassador. So if someone can't commit to spending $100 for two consecutive months right up front and becoming an ambassador, just ask them to commit for 60 days. If you can spend $100 up front, that means you can spend 50 PV this month and 50 PV next month. Now, I'm not here to tell you exactly which 2 products to get them on out of that 50 PV, but maybe you choose X Factor and Vital Biome. Maybe it's ProBio 5 and Mega X. But just ask them to commit for 60 days on that. And then, after they've committed to that for 60 days, introduce a new one. So if they're on Vital Biome and X Factor, introduce Mega X or introduce ProBio. And then the next month, introduce another. And again, if you can get them on ProBio 5, Mega X, X Factor, and Vital Biome, that's 100 PV. Now they're ready to become an ambassador, and they aren't even taking Slim yet. So create that pipeline for them to become the ambassador. That's something that I don't think enough people are taking advantage of. They just either sign them up as an ambassador anyways and hope that they'll order again that second month, or they just don't sign them at all. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's my answer for you there. From Nancy, I'm a blue. What pitfalls should I look for? It's very generic. I mean, so I guess what I was meaning earlier by talking about color personality is, so, for example, red, green, they tend to really be very focused on just on to the next one and researching about the ingredients, right? And so their struggles are going to be a little bit different. So like red, blue, a lot of times we like to call them the purples, right? Oftentimes we see them as the people that could potentially fast start, because people are attracted to that blue personality, that they're having fun, they're enjoying life, but they're also attracted to that red personality where it's just kind of, okay, I'm on to the next one. I'm just that go-getter type attitude, right? Where you're going to sign 20 people, and it doesn't matter if someone tells you no. You're self-driven, self-motivated, right? So there are oftentimes people that can fast start. Now, if you get someone that is a yellow-green, that's where you'd want to kind of look at, okay, sometimes, and I have this issue too as a green, where sometimes we want to continue to look up information before we're ready to go out and do anything. So it's hard for us to take action. So red greens are a little bit better at taking action, I feel like, but yellow greens, sometimes they don't take action as quickly. They like to sit back and continue to just absorb information. And in the meantime, you got some red out there that knows 1/5 of what you know, that's already exceeded you in the business just because they're out there working it. So that's a pain point that they struggle with. Sometimes, reds don't do enough with recognition. And so it's interesting that, a lot of times our yellows will struggle early on in the business, going gold or going to senior gold, because they struggle with that enrollments and reaching out to people. But then once they've kind of got this ruby or senior ruby team, they see a lot more success because they've spent time working with people, training them, loving on them, and sharing everything they know. And so that's when they see their success. So it's interesting that different color personalities succeed in different times of the business. Blues, Nancy, I would say their biggest struggle is follow-up. That's where they struggle the most with. Or talking to, not even just follow-up, but also reaching back out to some people like white lines. Sometimes they just kind of want to avoid the negative right there. So that's just something to keep in mind. So hopefully that helps. From Renee, Jules are still contacting brand new people. I struggle with what to say to people that I don't know. And so let me just start by saying that I think, especially early on in the business, you should always be working with not only your warm market, but also practice with your cold market, because that's another issue we see when people they'll get to Emerald by working with just their warm market. And now all of a sudden they got to start working with now they got to reach out to people they don't know, and they're new to it. They don't know how to do it, and they plateau out for a little bit. So early on, I would suggest getting that repetition under your belt and reaching out to people, cold messaging them, talking to people that you don't know at the grocery store, and don't overcomplicate it. I mean, the truth is, if you find somebody, anytime you're in the grocery store, just walk by the multivitamin aisle. And I know it can be scary to walk up and just talk to someone. It's much easier for me to sit here and say it on my end, sitting where I'm at. But truthfully, I think we've got some of the most amazing products out there, and that's, we're reinvesting in them as well to make them better than ever. So, especially if you've got a testimony, you shouldn't feel bad about going up and just saying, hey, I see that you're interested in looking at the fish oil supplement here, or this 1-a-day men's vitamin here. Would you be interested in taking, or looking to see what my company offers, and just maybe give them a brochure or give them some type of business card or something like that. But really, I think it comes down to relationships. This is a relationship business, and the more relationships you have, the higher rank you're going to be. That's just the truth. So really, I think you just start by asking the right questions and build a bond with that person. Easier said than done, and different demographic locations will present different challenges, right? But I think that's just the truth there. I'd role play with your upline as well, Renee, to just kind of see what their best practices are too. But also, try to keep track of the messages, the cold messages that you're sending out on Facebook. Try to quantify it. If you've got one that somebody says yes to, save that one and mark that one worked. If you've tried maybe 10 in a row that haven't worked, I'd scratch that one and try to figure out what it is there that isn't working. Maybe it doesn't sound as personal. Maybe you didn't pick up on anything on their profile. If you can, I'm not the biggest fan of those copy paste messages. They work and they can work. But a lot of times, especially for cold messages, it's important to kind of look at their profile and kind of get an idea of what their life is like. But again, it all comes about asking the right questions. Great leaders ask great questions. That's a great book from John Maxwell that'll help you really be able to ask the right questions. But I think everyone out there can fall into one of these categories where either they're looking to improve their health, improve, their finances, improve the amount of time that they're able to spend with their kids. And everyone's got something that they can benefit from that the business opportunity offers, I think. So, from Jen, how do we keep people from giving up on the products too soon? I got a lot who either don't like the die-off process or don't see results fast enough, even though I prepare them. It could take months. That's the truth. It's hard. Some people, they just don't like feeling bad, right? As long as you give them those realistic expectations going in of what they could be experiencing, you've done your job there. If they obviously continue to educate them, let them know about, dysbiosis. That's a huge one, right? Just show them how quickly your body can get back into that. And look, you spent many, 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 many months or years maybe not putting the healthiest stuff into your body. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take 60 to 90 days at least. So, I think, again, it's just that realistic expectation, letting them know, hey, and actually you can ask them to put themselves in Taro Robinson's shoes, our CEO. Just say, hey, if you were the CEO of a $500 million company, would you give people 30 days to try product and return it, or 60 days? And just ask them that. And most people will tell you 30 days. So then say, okay, well, if they're giving you 60 days to try some products and return them without being out anything, when they cost $100 a piece, that's $200 that we could be out right there. So that means that we're pretty confident in what we sell and what our products can do if you give them the appropriate time. And just show them that, look, a company like ours doesn't grow exponentially this way. So let's see, from Benita. How do you respond when people do not feel comfortable having auto ships and recurring charges each month? That's, I think, again, you've got to show them the importance of staying consistent with the products. Look, if there's somebody that is ordering every single month and they don't miss a month, maybe it's one of those that you don't need to have that conversation with, especially if they're not a business builder. If they're a business builder, it's really important to talk to them about the importance of duplication as well too, and that eventually down the road this is going to hurt them, and that they're kind of a hypocrite if they're not turning their convenience order on and telling other people to have one on. But if it's just for a wholesale customer or someone that's kind of new, I think it's important to just remind them about consistency, and that the die-off process is a serious process, and the stop and go doesn't work. It works, but it will take you so much longer, and at some point you're flushing a good portion of your money down the drain if you're not staying super consistent with it. So most people don't like flushing money down or wasting any money. So I would just show them, look, again, dysbiosis. I can't stress that enough. That's something that we can be talking about now because we've got some studies that support it with the new vital biome. So, you just let them go down the rabbit hole. Ask them to research for 5 minutes. Just say, hey, will you do me a favor? We just Google dysbiosis and some of the things that can happen when your body is in dysbiosis, and let them go down the rabbit hole. And I promise you, they'll find some information and probably want to take care of their gut health. So that's really the best answer there. Just know that also those of us at corporate, we're looking at some different ways too to have people keep those convenience orders on too. So it's not all on you, but yeah. From Rick, best way to motivate a team without beating a stick, or without beating them with a stick. That's don't know the best answer there. People are people. Some of them, a lot of times we want it more for people than they want it for themselves. And so I would just say lock arms with those people that are really wanting to run, and, continue to talk to those people that aren't. Let them know the business opportunity, but I think one of the main ways is showing people the power of 3 is huge, because I think a lot of times people think, oh my gosh, I've got to have like 500 active people to go diamond, when that's not true. The average diamond has about 50 active level 1s. And that's still a ton. And to get those 50 active level 1s, I've usually recruited over 100 people. But again, that's the very top rank. And not everybody's looking to have to make that money. Some people are just looking for that little extra money that they can have each month to be able to put their kid in some extracurricular activity, or to, put food on the table or something like that. So show them the power of 3. Show them the importance of gut health. I really think we're leading the industry on gut health. You're not going to find another network marketing company bigger than us right now that's main focus is on gut health. And show them our growth. We grew 33% last month in terms of revenue in a year that was, we had some growing pains. That's no secret. And so if we can do that in a year in which we're experiencing some growing pains and having to fix a bunch of other things, sky's the limit now that we've got brand new tools, brand new reformulated products. The DSN The Global 100 is a list that I'd get familiar with. It stands for the Direct Selling News Global 100. It's essentially a list that they put out every year with every network marketing company's revenue, and they rank them kind of in order. So it's similar to the Fortune 500 list from Forbes. But show them that. You can show them every single year Plexus is climbing. So do you want to be a part of this, or do you not want to be a part of this? That's really the best answer I've got there. But hey, if they can see the importance of gut health, they see how quickly we're growing, and they like the products themselves, I don't know what else it would take to motivate them at that point. So, yeah. Benita, what would a white personality struggle with most? I'm honestly not familiar with what you mean by that. Is that kind of like all colors mixed into one? Nancy, it's the DSN Global 100. D as in dog, S as in Sally, N as in no, Global 100. So, sorry, Benita, I'm not 100% sure what you mean there with the white. You might mean all of them mixed together. If so, for whatever reason, we've always kind of referred to that as like the rainbow color. So just let me know there, and I'll do my best to answer.
I just want to say something to address what Rick just asked. He's still pretty new with this, and he's doing amazing with his business. But Rick, I don't want you to get frustrated, because you could sign some new people in the coming months that could be amazing and that could see the vision. You might just not have those people on your team yet. So just be patient. And I mean, you're doing great with the ones that you have on your team, but you're not always going to have that. So don't get all, caught up on that and worried about that, because you just never know at what point when you're going to sign somebody that's just going to be amazing and really want to work the business. And so don't get frustrated with that.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I won't share her name, but I actually got off a call earlier today with a Diamond ambassador who told me that one of the very first people that she signed 4 years ago just came to her today and said she wants to work the business, and that she's super excited, and it actually has to do with the fact that her daughter saw some really good results with the product in terms of like her health and everything like that. And she was, and it took her 4 years before she put her daughter on the product, and it really helped her daughter. I see this is recorded, so there's only so much I can say with that, with staying in compliance. But she was like, you know what? How could I not share that with someone else? Because what if someone was afraid to share it with me? And so sometimes it takes a while. And again, 80% of these jewels started off as just wholesale customers. They never wanted to work the business, and it just takes time. The longer sometimes it'll take a year, but after being on the products for a year, they might be like, hey, you know what? There's something to this. I really feel amazing. I'm in a whole different place than I was a year ago. So it just takes time. Just continue to show them the comp plan, the earning power of it. And the best thing that you can do to motivate them is for you to have personal success yourself, right? The more that you grow and the more that they see that you're still rocking this business, the more they're going to be like, oh, wow, I should have listened a few months ago. Let me talk to them. So.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Because we're coming up on an hour. We're at 50 minutes now, and I don't want to keep Jake on here all night. Thank you again so much. This has been amazing. If nobody has any other questions, I guess we can let you go. But thanks again. It really was a fantastic call, and you're amazing to have at home office as a resource, and I love being able to work with you, and I know this has been really great for the team. So thanks again so much, and then I will talk to you soon. And everybody else, thank you all for jumping on tonight. It really meant a lot to me, and I'm going to stop recording this now.